Number one, how fast will the NCAA work? Number two, will it be the NCAA or will it be the Big Ten? And number three, what does it say for this season? I mean, I never like to ask three questions in a row, but my head's exploding.
So let me get to I would be surprised. It could be the Big Ten. I would be surprised if it was the Big Ten. Because from what I'd heard, I don't know how much the Big Ten has everything, whereas the NCAA may be out in front of this a little more. I just would be surprised if the Big Ten was going to shut down a flagship program like that.
Yeah, they don't want to have. They want Michigan to be in the championship.
They do, and it benefits
the
them. It benefits their brand. It just adds so much. I get it. They're going to get a lot of pushback from some of the schools in their conference. Now, the other layers to this that I think are really interesting is if you're Michigan, and right now, they've smashed schools. It hasn't been close to anybody. But now the pretty much their schedule falls into two games of the regular season. It's Penn State, which is on the road, and Ohio State comes to play them. You have to think those schools are going to be so buttoned up, whether they're going to use wristbands or they're going to change all their signals. Whatever intel that Michigan has or may have, it's probably not going to be applicable. So
it's all changed now.
Yeah. So I think if you're a Michigan person, you're going to go, look, it's going to come down to that. I mean, I will say this. I talked to a coach on one of the Big Ten teams they've already beaten, and this coach was like, if they had anything on us, nothing out of the ordinary. They didn't have any calls or anything that was they just whipped us because they were a lot better than us. Now, last year, going into the Ohio State-Michigan game, I did a story where I talked to a lot of coaches who played both teams. And one of the coaches I talked to, who was a running back coach, said this, and I didn't even think about this when this story broke last Wednesday, but a colleague of mine pointed this out in the story that I had, where this coach said, Michigan had our stuff early. They had both sides of the ball. They had all our signals. And so, it kind of supports to some degree that there was some advanced intel that they would have had. I just think it's just a fascinating story on a lot of levels, including the part which you said, which you were talking about before we came on, which is man, some of this stuff is really sloppy. You talked about the forensics piece of this. That's the part where I'm okay, we got a Naval Academy grad. It doesn't add up. This is not like the Galooly world of the, Tanya Harding days of so are really, sloppy, characters and bad actors in here. You just wouldn't think they would be, have it so traceable.
That's exactly what we were saying. Again, Bruce Feldman here on the Rich Eisen Show, Suzy Shuster in for Rich. That's what we were saying, is that it's one thing to be cavalier and cocky. It's another thing in 2023 to be using your personal credit cards to be a staff member of the Michigan football team and to be that lazy, that sloppy, which leads me to believe in some strange way, was he just trying to boost his self-worth? Did he actually connect it to Harbaugh? Was he actually putting this into play? It feels way too Keystone Cops and stupid, frankly.
It does. I mean, part of me is sitting there thinking about this, just as I would guess, I'm not great with technology. I am of that age where I'm just not, right? Your kids are probably more adept at certain things than Rich is, right?
No doubt.
And so, but he's not, me and Del Tufo's age, where it's he's a 28-year-old who is trained in the, in the military. You just think it defies a little logic.
It almost feels like a strange plant to bring. I mean, it's so insane, and I know it's not. Let me make that clear. But it's so insane and so lazy for a military guy who's very bright. You would know.
That part doesn't add up to me, right? And so I think there is a part of this where, from talking to people who know Connor pretty well, that this was something he took pride in. I know he took pride in this, and this was the idea of, hey, here's a military guy, and people can find stuff that he's written online or had written online in the past that kind of reflects this. It's something he took pride in. So if this is something you're really, really good at, and people know you're really, really good at, and people you really respect, because obviously everything I've heard is he was a diehard Michigan fan long before he ever, was on their sidelines. That, okay, what can I do to sharpen my skills? What else can I do? Because if this is what you think about, coaches go to clinics, coaches do all these things to try to get better at their craft. Did he brainstorm? And again, I think there's plenty of people, you don't need to be an Ohio State fan to go like, okay, this definitely feels like Jim Harbaugh had to know. Head coaches have to know where the information is coming from. It strains credibility to think that they would have no knowledge of what this guy, because at the end of the day, you have to trust this person who's giving you information going, you should call this, or this is what they're doing here. Because why would you believe that person if they didn't have a track record of being extremely prescient?
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.